A martial arts movie star is forced to fake his own death in order to get the mafia off his back. Now, Billy Lowe alters his appearance and hunts down the members of the crime syndicate who took everything from him in the controversial 1978 martial arts adventure and the final film of international superstar Bruce Lee, Game of Death. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre,
I'm Caleb Boucher.
and this is Filmgazm. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Filmgazm podcast. We're fresh off 200 episodes and we're looking forward to a lot of randomly picked films to keep the juices flowing. Today, we're starting the march towards 300 with Bruce Lee's last movie, Game of Death, a film that stars a few guys who kind of look like Bruce Lee if you don't look directly at their face. That's because Lee only filmed one scene for this film before his untimely death in 1973. The rest of the movie was cobbled together using lookalikes, cardboard cutouts, shadows, and footage of Lee's actual corpse at his real-life memorial service. But more on that later. First, let's go back a week on the rewind. First, a technically update on our past episodes on Batman and Batman Returns. If you haven't been paying attention in recent movie news, Warner Brothers has lost its goddamn mind. Why don't you take us through what's been happening over there?
So basically, they made a big old merger with Discovery, Warner Media, who owns HBO. And the guy who takes over when it happens is a man by the name of David Zaslav. I think that's how you say his last name. He apparently hit the ground running the day the merger was complete and he was in charge, and subsequently shelved Batgore, even though it was in post-production. It was completed, and it pulled a bunch of movies that were HBO Max originals or on the service for people to watch. He pulled them off the site and doing all this as one, claiming it's a tax write-off and that he wants to only do theatrical event films for DC and nothing else can come out. And Scoop, those who wanted a Scoop sequel, that was also in post-production and it got shit can as well. The thing with this, and this is what I've been telling people, I am all about someone coming in and saying, hey, let's have a unified vision for DC. Okay, cool. And let's do this moving forward. But to go in there and follow it up with shelving films, pulling things off, and trying to use it, well, it's a tax write-off, and we're blah, 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 and we're not really focused on, you're just showing that you hate streaming. Also, he laid off over I think 100 something thousand people, something like that. He laid off a lot of people. Laying people off, putting films on the shelf for no one to see because you deem it unworthy, not the public, you, and to just pull films that are already on the service off your streamer, but they can still rent it on Prime. No, why would you want to pay more money to rent something that you could have watched with a subscription to HBO Max? Doing all this is an incredibly bad move. It's understandably, no one other than this guy seems to think it's a good idea in the entertainment industry. Everyone I've been reading that's been responding, like Kevin Smith and them, have all been saying it's a terrible move. And it's like, it gets you to a point of like, what's next? Like, for those who don't know, like Evil Dead Rise is owned by this company. It's supposed to be, there's big conflicting rumors. Will it be Max? Will it be theatrical? They're supposed to be doing a new Final Destination. If this guy only cares about top dollar, are we going to get that Evil Dead Rise movie? Like, I'm legitimately worried if I'm going to get this movie I've been looking forward to, because he may not deem it good enough and completely shelve it. Screw the fact that it's fucking done. And then the fact that he's standing so behind the upcoming Flash movie because it's testing positive. So he's like, yeah, I'm standing behind this film 112%, but it stars a fucking monster of a human being. But Batgirl doesn't deserve to be seen by the general public, regardless of what, just because you thought it was dog shit, basically.
Yeah, this is upsetting. And even, it's on the TV front, like every DC property is now completely up in the air. I don't know if it's connected. It probably is. The Flash is ending with season 9. Harley Quinn, Doom Patrol, Titans are all pretty much on the chopping block, most likely at this point. So Kevin Smith had some show he was going to do that was DC connected, and they axed that immediately. It's every DC project except weirdly Peacemaker. James Gunn has assured people that Peacemaker season 2 is still happening. So like that's the only thing that's still alive. But this guy is dismantling everything that fans like. And I guess, Black Adam is supposed to usher in a new continuity for DC. But if that tanks or not tank, I don't think it'll tank, but I don't know if it's going to be a masterpiece. Are they going to just start over again? Like DC, they've been doing this a long time, but this is the most proactive they've ever been at just killing projects. And killing completed projects is what baffles me the most. Like, how does anybody benefit from that? All you did was waste money. You're pissing off a lot of fans that are looking forward to that movie. You're telling everybody involved in that movie that you don't value their work in the slightest. It's a way to alienate a lot of people and just make as a president of a company, just look like a jackass. So I don't know what he expects to do with this. It's like it's just a flurry of bad decisions that don't feel like this is going to work on any level.
Yeah, I'm at a point now where like, I'm gonna go see Black Adam. I wish all the success with The Rock with that movie because I know how much The Rock's passionate about that. But I want something to flop. I want this to blow up in his face because it's like I don't want you to succeed, man. Because this is shit to the fans. Like you're sitting there talking about you want to chase Marvel's success, which is what they did. They tried to do when Snyder was on board, and that didn't work out for them. I thought DC was in a great spot, just being its own thing. Like ever since Aquaman, they just embraced like, hey, let's just do all these separate stories. It's its own thing. We're not going to be focusing too much on connecting it all. I was okay with it. I was enjoying everything that was coming out then because there was so much less pressure. But now that's going away because they want to again chase the Marvel machine. And it's like we've done this before, and you seem to forget that. And I've been talking, emo Josh about all this stuff. He made a good point. Is that with Marvel, obviously jury's still on how they are as a company with their people. But for the most part, they're very hands off with these, like their Star Wars and Marvel and Pixar. Let's not forget that they've owned them first for like years.
Yeah, Disney. Crazy.
They are hands off. They don't sit there and say, "Hey, fit this in your little box, in our little box," and then get it out there. If we don't like it, we're just not releasing it. Like they create their thing and it comes out, and they leave it the fuck alone. And it pays off. I mean, look at Prey. Very recent example. While this is going on, they essentially helped distribute on Hulu a new Predator movie, and it's paying off huge with their approach. They let the filmmakers do their thing. It's it's probably other than the original, the best reviewed film in the fucking franchise. It's hugely successful. There's big hints about them even putting out a physical release because of it. Like, that's why they work. They don't fuck with the money basically. Whereas Zaslav is fucking with the money.
Well, and also there's this weird kind of personal vendetta because like Warner Brothers has been in Disney's shadow since the dawn of cinema. They've never been able to quite capture the same. Like they had something with Harry Potter, but Disney has like a Harry Potter every couple years. They've got Star Wars, they've got Marvel, they've got Pixar. They're doing fine. Warner Brothers, they missed the boat to capitalize on Marvel's success. Marvel is 14 years into this project. You can't keep up with them. At this point, there's nothing Warner Brothers could do to even come close to their success. And the sooner they realize this, the sooner they can actually start getting their own shit together and release films and TV shows that people want to watch, as their own thing. I'm tired of this. Like, maybe if we just do it this way, we'll be Marvel. You're never going to be Marvel. So just give up.
Yeah, one. Then amongst all this, apparently Hamada, DC's film president, almost quit like when all this was going down. Now he's going to stay at least on board till Black Adam, but there's very strong indications he's stepping down because he's incredibly pissed off.
Yeah,
what's going on.
Warner Brothers has owned DC since the 70s, I think. And it's just, or I think before that, with Batman, the TV show, that might have been them, or the Batman movie, whatever. They've that relationship has been, pretty codependent for most of the 20th century. I wish they could get out of that. Because I think if DC got, married to another distributor, we could get some really kick-ass movies, but it's Warner Brothers who keep pulling them back and making them do things their way, and they can't fucking win.
Yeah, it's annoying. And this move, like I said, like even if it's Hardison right intentions, he's going about the complete amazingly wrong way that no one's winning. And all the people are thinking like, well, he's bringing back the Snyderverse because he's for some reason bringing back Ben Affleck as Batman. I'm like, no, he's not. That's like anything you remotely liked is dead for his vision and only his vision. Um, I just yeah, it's crazy this is happening that now you have to worry about everything you watch with that. And I remember back when like CW was up for sale, so they were canceling all the you know DC shows, which is really probably what came with the Flash. Is why it's getting its final season. Um, I thought, oh well, that's just CW. I didn't think anything of it until like all this shit happened last week. And I'm like, oh my god, this is expanded. Like I said, it doesn't just make me worried for DC. It makes me worried for anything owned by WB that this guy is looking at because who knows? He might not be a fucking horror fan, and now he's going to be looking at those films like, well, who really needs Evil Dead Rise? Because I think not. And, cans it.
Well, maybe he'll also have, I mean, it seems like his ultimate goal here is to, you know, even out the bottom line, make some money. So maybe he'll sell some of these properties.
That's what I would hope. But, I mean, considering he's canned completed films, I don't have much hope. And I should point out he did this on one of the director's wedding.
Yeah.
Which is really terrible. And if you're wondering, well, maybe it was a shit film, I kind of doubt it because the guy directing this gave us the third Bad Boys film, which everyone loved. It was a huge success. Miss Marvel, like these guys are proven hit directors, so it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, there seems to be like, I there's no real easy way to say this, but I do think, the fact that Batgirl is a film, led by a Black Hispanic female actress is like, I don't think he liked that.
Oh, I guarantee you, this is reeking of a dude that wants classic white straight man. I mean, look how hard he's been making it very open. He wants Henry Cavill as Superman. He will not do a Superman film without Henry Cavill.
So J.J. Abrams' Black Superman movie, that's dead. Yep.
Oh yeah. So I get the idea that yeah, he wants his white straight male leads.
Jesus Christ, this guy. All right. Well, there's going to be more of this shit in the coming months. This guy's not done. So we'll be updating y'all when we hear about it. But last week we did Predator, and this week we saw Prey, which is available to stream exclusively on Hulu and has been doing great. What'd you think?
I really liked it. It's definitely second or third best. It's toss between that and Predators. Makes a real do you like Predators? Probably honestly second best because Predators does have the drawback of Adrian Brody trying to be a tough guy. Was this to not have that? No, I really like this. I like the back to basics approach. I like the idea of like it's prequel in the sense that like we're seeing a very early version of the Predator. Like he doesn't have all his fancy gadgets. Even his mask is just like a skull mask. Like it's a very early Predator that hasn't gotten used to Earth yet. As we saw in the movie, he's not used to Earth nor bears. But with that, like the action scenes are kick ass as fuck. Acting is great. Like it's a little slow, so honestly, that's something like it takes a while to start, but in a way, like I like that they take their time to start it because you get invested in this in our main character and why she's doing what she's doing. And then it pays off in the end. The whole like fur trapper scene when he is fucking those guys up is awesome. So yeah, if you're a Predator fan, this is like finally the sequel I think we've all kind of been waiting for.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I enjoyed this a lot. I liked seeing the Predator a little less invincible. Just, like you said, he's new to this planet. It's probably the first time a Predator's been on Earth. So yeah, of course, a snake's gonna bite him, a wolf's gonna rip him, a bear's gonna fuck him up for a little bit. He doesn't know these animals. He's exploring, and yeah, once things get going, they do not stop. I thought the connection to Predator 2 was really smart and really cool for longtime fans. I like that a lot. And yeah, the visual effects are stunning. The choreography is amazing. The practical effects on the Predator are beautiful. He looks ferocious, vicious, angry, just monstrous in a way that the Predator to me has never looked before. And yeah, I thought this was fantastic. I hope this leads into some more kind of period piece Predator movies. I thought this was a really cool idea to set it in 300 years ago with the Comanche Nation, and I can't wait to see what we get next. Dan Trachtenberg, well fucking done.
Yeah, this guy really knows how to take movies and turn them, give us good franchise sequels between this and 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah,
I'm saying it right now. I want a World War II Predator movie. I don't know why. That I just really want a World War II Predator movie.
that'd be sweet. But yeah, go check out Prey if you've got Hulu. If you don't have Hulu, sign up for a free trial and watch Prey, and then cancel it. It's an awesome movie. I want a lot of people to watch it so that Disney feels comfortable making more.
Yes, especially because Fede Alvarez is supposed to be doing an Alien film for Hulu, so that tells me there's a possibility that they aren't opposed to an AVP down the line as long as both of these take off.
Yeah, a proper R-rated AVP that has some stakes, some good characters,
And
some
lighting.
and lighting, and some fucking gore for once. Like, I'll never forgive Fox for giving us a PG-13 Alien versus Predator movie based off two hard R franchises. Like, why did you do?
From a director who has done R-rated films before, and then just doubled down and said, "No, we made the film we wanted to make." I'm like, dude, you did Event Horizon and the Resident Evil movies. Like, you've done R-rated movies. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, somebody held him back, but even then, the lesser of Hollywood's Paul Anderson's gets the reins to that one. No, come on, you can do better.
Yeah, I'm so mad about the missed potential on that movie.
But
I mean,
maybe, maybe Disney's got a plan here because they love their shared universes.
they do, and like I said, they aren't shy about making these R because they don't necessarily put their name front and center on it. So they're cool with it. And we saw some pretty brutal kills in this new Predator movie. I mean, that whole thing when he shows the netted guy that just tightens on him.
Dear God. That was maybe the most graphic death in either franchise. Oh, man. Although I do still think about that scene in Alien Resurrection where the guy who's got an alien about to come out grabs the bad guy's head, puts him on his chest, and the alien comes out of the guy's stomach and into the other guy's head. Like, remember that? Yeah. That stayed with me for a while. Bad movie, but it's got some moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. But check out Prey. Kicked ass. Now, on to Game of Death. So before we get started, I wanted to pose a question to you. Well, two questions, actually. To start with, outside of Bruce Lee's work, what are some of your favorite martial arts movies? Like, is this a subgenre you've explored?
Oh yeah, I love martial arts films. Ong Bak, I've only seen the first one, is really, really good with Tony Jaa. More recent, anyone who's listened to the podcast knows me knows my immense love for the Raid films 1 and 2. They're everything I want in just well choreographed action, brutal, everything. On the American side of things, I love the John Wick franchise. I do consider those martial arts because that's heavily what they're taking influence from.
Yeah.
Just adding gunplay to it. Another off the wall one, Equilibrium. It mixes martial arts again with gunplay, which it's a really fun movie. Yeah, those top that kind of hit my head that I really like. I've gone to. I always just love martial arts. I think just because don't get me wrong, I love American action cinema, but especially when Michael Bay kind of came around, the overindulgence and just cut the scene. Whereas in the martial arts films, they want you to see it. They want you to kind of see them do their thing. So I like doing that. You get a lot of cool one takes. And Grant, like I said, American cinema seems to be catching on, thanks to films like The Raid and things like that. Daredevil on Netflix, had famously each season an extended long take fight sequence. The first one being taken, directly from Old Boy. And the hallway, and then the second season he has the Hell's Angels fight down the stairwell, and then the third season was a whole prison outbreak that he had to do, and it's a really badass sequence. So you can definitely see the influence coming to American cinema, which I like. But But yeah, those I would say those off right off the top of my head are some of my favorites. I've gone back to a lot.
Nice. Yeah. I love that you started with Ong Bak. That is one of my favorite, maybe my favorite martial arts film I've ever seen. Tony Jaa, what that guy does with Muay Thai is fucking beautiful. It's amazing. It's all elbows and knees for the most part, but that it's so cool. It's all real. That's an impressive film. Check that one out if you guys haven't seen it. Ong Bak, the Thai Warrior. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but hunt it down. It's great. Um, the movie that kind of really introduced me to martial arts movies is Kill Bill. After I learned about Sonny Chiba and Gordon Liu and their influence on the genre with films like The Street Fighter and the 36 Chamber of Shaolin and all that. I love that Tarantino paid homage to that stuff, and it made me want to seek it out. And I'm sure a lot of other people as well. But yeah, martial arts movies are so special because they're like there's not a lot of real fight in a lot of action movies, but with these movies, it may not be full contact, but it's real skill and real talent, and it's fucking hard. And Bruce Lee was pretty much the pioneer of all of this. He brought martial arts to Hollywood, and it's his movies, stood the test of time, most of them, except for Game of Death, but I'll get into that.
Yeah. Well, no, and sorry, and thank God for it because, like, for example, like with the raid, you know how much I love the raid. I remember when I texted you as soon as I watched it, I was like, you have got to watch this damn movie. I show that movie to anyone I can, like anyone I can. And what's cool with it, and Bruce Lee helped do this, and that's why I think martial arts films are so special, is that they're I would say until Parasite came out, the only foreign film that would break the barrier for a general audience. And that's not, I understand before horror fans come at me, ask any non-horror fan to name a fucking foreign horror film, you will be sad.
Yeah.
But as far as like a genre that just broke through and could capture anyone's attention, it was martial arts film. That's because also they dubbed a lot of these early ones, so people were able to get behind that. Um but I love showing that. I mean, people, I remember the last time I showed the raid was actually when I was on Nimitz, and I showed it to the guys when they were on deployment, and everyone was entranced, like everyone's watching, and then the whole epic fight scene between the two brothers and Mad Dog, and that just goes on and on and on. I remember at one point I hear someone go, "My God, this guy just keeps fighting." I look, there's like 10 guys just standing watching this fight scene, and that, to me, that's what's so special about these martial art films, is that yeah, they're foreign, yeah, they're not American, but you can get just the action alone gets people trying, because you want to see this crazy. I mean, the raid alone, like how you said, that's what's cool, is that from if you watch enough, you'll notice that each one covers a different type of fighting. Like like I said, Ong Bak tackled Muay Thai, and you saw how Tony Jaa uses it, which is elbows and knees. In the raid is forgive me if I say it improperly, but Pincock Salat, I always say it. I don't know an Americanized way to say it, but you saw it. It's a move where like every ounce of your body is a weapon. Even if you're on the ground, you're still fighting. As you saw, they're doing moves laying on the ground. They're still quick impact, a lot of damage type of hits, and it's just so cool to see it play out. Another cool thing they do with these films is that they bring in, when they do these, people like Bruce Lee or Rico Uwais for the raid, or Tony Jaa, people that are usually masters in this craft. They know what they're doing to come in and do this stuff, and they bring in people that they know to help round out the cast. So then you have a good people that know what they're doing. So there's just a lot of cool things about it. I love showing they're just a good way to show them people. Now, yes, luckily with films like Parasite, we should see more types of foreign films finally break that international barrier. But that can't be said enough about martial arts films, that they are really the only genre from the very beginning that broke through international barriers and got people on board.
That's true. That's very true. It's really cool. This was a style of fighting that a lot of people in the West didn't know about till they saw Bruce Lee do it in films like End of the Dragon. And it comes with a certain level of respect and dignity, and you need you need guys who are masters to build the choreography to make it believable, but also doable. And like, if you don't have that respect, it can bite you in the ass. Like, there's a scene in Enter the Dragon where Bruce Lee's fighting this guy, and I guess this guy was a little arrogant. He did something. He insulted Bruce Lee, or he sucker punched him, or something. And so Bruce kicks this dude about 5 feet, like leaps, kicks him in the chest. And in the movie, like it's in the movie, but it really happened. The dude just flies like across the fucking court, and he didn't talk back after that. Fucking cool, man. It's like this dude was a fighter first, actor second, but a global superstar who, like, had he not, had he not tragically passed at such a young age, what else he could have done. Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
I can't even, fathom
Well,
it.
that's why I like that his legacy hasn't left cinema. Like I said, John Wick's probably the most modern current franchise I can think of that is paying heavy homage to the people like Bruce Lee and Tony Jaa, to the point that in John Wick 3 they got the guys from the raid in the film. And obviously, like, as someone like us who have seen these movies know that those guys could totally take Keanu Reeves. But we still get a cool action scene nonetheless that works within the context of the film. Um, so to see it kind of still be played off in nice ways, and the legacy hasn't, Bruce Lee may no longer be with us, but the legacy hasn't died. You know, and then I know we haven't really mentioned Jackie Chan, but what Jackie Chan has done for martial arts and that crossover into international cinema with a lot of his films.
Well, Jackie Chan added comedy into it, and that gave him a whole new kind of, genre within a genre to capitalize on and kind of lead into success of his own. And he got his start as an extra on Enter the Dragon. Like, he was friends with Bruce Lee. Like, Bruce Lee gave him some pointers and, taught him some stuff about, like, being, not just a martial artist, but an entertainer. So even Jackie Chan, he can pretty much trace all of his, career back to Bruce Lee. It's crazy.
Yeah, because it's like I said, it's one that's respectful, and that's what's cool about this fighting style they do. It's all about respect. You even see in like I've always been in the Raid 2, the kitchen fight scene, how it starts when they do their stance. It's obviously it looks cool, but it's a sign of respect as well. It's like a respectful thing these fighters do. So it's cool that in a way they're bringing their culture into this, and and especially in the case of with Bruce Lee and that guy, showing that you may be an American that thinks you're tough because let's just be honest, most Americans are brawlers. We're brawler type fighters. I mean, look at the 80s action cinema for Christ's sakes. Um, but it doesn't matter how, especially with all these guys. If you ever notice with these guys, they're pretty small, but they're ripped to shit, and they're strong as fuck. You just don't know it, and that guy had to be a jackass. Found out the hard way that it doesn't matter how small Bruce Lee may be, the guy can pack a punch because he knows what he's doing with his body. That's the key with this. That these guys know what they're doing with their body. Their body is, to kind of go back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in that one scene. Every ounce of the body is a lethal weapon.
I'm looking through the trivia of Enter the Dragon right now, just so I can see if I can get a little bit more info on that guy that Bruce just kind of handed his own ass to.
I don't know if this is your other question, but I have a question for you. What is some of your favorite martial arts fight scenes?
That wasn't my question, but that is a good question. Let's see. In Ong Bak, I love the scene where our hero Tony Jaa is at the underground fight club, kind of making his way through their big fighters, and everyone starts betting on him. And that one guy at the end just kind of gets up, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, he's here!" And everyone's terrified. And Tony Jaa just fucks this guy up. They fight throughout the whole building. They're throwing shit at each other, and then Tony Jaa wins, and they all start throwing gold at him. And it's such a cool scene. The music and just like the performance, it's so cool. And just watching him kick this guy's ass, this freaky, terrifying, dirty fighter, it's very satisfying. That's always been one of my favorites.
Okay, that's a good one. I think for me, again, I'm going. If you guys have not watched the Raid 1 and 2 and see why I talk about these films so much, like Connor knows, there's a reason I fucking adore these two films. But it's tough. I would say the Raid 2 because the raid, as you know, is just straight up. It is action from start to end. The raid 2 does have a bit more story. It's longer, and there are parts of that are negative to me where I'm just like, I don't care. I just want the action. But with that said, it goes so much bigger in its action scenes. Well, the one I like to highlight that it's always been a favorite of mine is the fucking car chase fight scene. When they think they got him, he's in the car, they think they got him, and he is kicking these dudes' ass in the car where there's a chase happening with like three others. He's taking those cars out. It's fucking epic what he is pulling off in that fucking scene.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a good one. Pretty much every fight scene in the first raid takes top spots. That there's not a dull moment in that movie at all. Every second is loaded with epic, well choreographed fights and epic gun action too. It's just fucking cool.
Oh, dude, like from the whole machete fight he has with those guys that just keeps going on to the aforementioned I mentioned earlier, like Mad Dog versus the two brothers is a fucking up to the point where the guy gets a fucking piece of like light bulb put into his neck and he is still fighting. It's fucking insane. The whole thing when like the police captain and Mad Dog ran into each other, and he's like, I don't like to fight with guns. I like to use my hands. And they have their fucking epic just mano a mano fight scene. Like, yeah, no, the raid is just filled. Like I said, raid 2 does add a lot more story, but to their credit, like their action scenes deliver when they do their fucking action scenes. They're big, epic. I always remember the end scene when he crashes into the building and just fucks all those people up.
Damn. Yeah. Those are, yeah, they kick ass, man. Enter the Dragon, the final fight between Bruce and Mr. Han, the evil crime lord who brought everybody to this. It's basically the same plot as Mortal Kombat. Like Mortal Kombat ripped off Enter the Dragon, the first movie. It's the same plot. But that fight is so badass. Han starts putting on all these claws. He cuts Bruce in the chest at one point. Bruce puts his fingers on the blood, licks it, and then just stares at the guy. It's fucking awesome. They end up in a hall of mirrors fighting one another. Oh, it's one of the most iconic fights in movie history.
Oh yeah, I got you guy in the dragon then. See, outside of the raid, like I said, in a lot of the John Wick franchise, with their mixing of the gunplay and stuff, they always find really creative ways to mix gunplay with martial arts action, especially obviously 2 Onward, where they add a lot more hand-to-hand combat into his repertoire. There's a lot of just kick ass after kick ass fucking fight scenes involved. Like I said, in 3, you got the 2 guys from the raid taking on John Wick, and it's a really cool fight scene. At one point, he takes his belt off to defend the blocks.
Yeah. I got a weird one. Shanghai Nights, 2004. Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson buddy comedy, sequel to Shanghai Noon. There's a fight scene in that movie between Jackie Chan and Donnie Yen, and it's fucking awesome. Donnie Yen plays like the disgraced emperor or brother of the emperor of China who's trying to take over the country, and Jackie Chan fights him, and it's Jackie Chan fighting Donnie Yen, so it's like so fucking tight and epic and well choreographed. Awesome fight. And then there was a movie in 2008 called The Forbidden Kingdom, which did not get nearly enough attention. It was Jackie Chan and Jet Li, and we got to see them fight, and that was a surreal experience. Seeing them like Jackie Chan and Jet Li going at one another like that was awesome. That's a cool movie.
I'll say it's always cool when they take like masters and be like, "How about you 2 just fight each other and we film it?"
Yeah, it was a good story too. It was like some kid from Jersey finds a ancient Chinese staff, and he touches it, and it transports him to ancient China, where he runs into Jackie Chan and Jet Li and ends up helping them fight a warlord. It was cool.
Damn, I didn't even know that was. I've never heard of that movie before.
Yeah, it was. I saw it on a whim. I was like bored one day. I saw an ad for it on TV, and then I went and saw it at the movies, and it ended up being one of my favorite movies that I've never heard anybody talk about. It's so much fun.
There's a Netflix one you need to check out. It's from Timo Tchonto. He did Safe Haven on VHS2, the big one.
Yeah.
He actually has done. He did Headshot, which also starred the main character of the raid. He's been doing a lot of martial arts stuff. He's supposed to be doing the new that Train to New York film. They got indefinitely delayed. But he did this one on Netflix. Headshot was good, but what I liked even more was this one called The Night Comes for Us, and he cast, again, because he's really good with the main character, main lead actor for The Raid. They're good friends. He cast him as the villain, and then the guy who played his captain, he's the good guy, Joe Taslim, and it's like basically Joe Taslim wants to get out. He used to be a mob enforcer. He wants out, so they call Rico Reyes up, being like, "Hey, he's trying to get out. You need to take care of it." So he's like, "All right." And there's some fucking. It is brutal. It's bloody. Some brutal fucking action scenes in it. Like there was one where they're trying to get out of their apartment, and it's just like a mob of people just crashing into the apartment. It's such a kick-ass fight scene. I haven't watched them try to get out the apartment out of the building.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I'll check that out for sure. Yeah, martial arts films are fun. They're memorable. But I do have one more question for you. And this isn't about martial arts movies. This is about something considerably different. Where do you stand on the use of an actor's likeness or recreation in projects after they've passed away?
It's fucking weird.
It is, right? It doesn't feel right. It's unnatural.
It's just, yeah, it's unnatural. I'd heard there's like one coming out where they want to use like a total recreation and James Dean or some shit like that. And I'm like, no, he's dead. Like I accept the fact that he's dead. It's weird. It was honestly like, I know they did it for some of the Star Wars films there for a bit. And it was weird for me then. I remember watching the last Jedi when Carrie Fisher had passed away, and they found a way to get her back in the movie. I was like, no, it felt weird. I know that was a little different, but still, it just felt weird.
It is unusual for for the Rise of Skywalker. They used kind of body doubles from reverse and extra footage they hadn't used in The Force Awakens, and that is weird. But I kind of get it on that front because like they had footage existing. But like you look at Rogue One and digitally recreating Peter Cushing,
and that was weird for me too. Like I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't like this. I'm personally, I'm against it. I don't mind the I know they do de-aging stuff nowadays. That doesn't bother me so much. I'm so used to it. But it, like, okay, like how the upcoming Black Panther, how they're just, instead of trying to just digitally put in Chadwick Boseman, so the fans can be happy, they're just tackling it head on and saying, yes, Black Panther, T'Challa has died in this movie, like the real life actor.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that. You're taking something tragic and in this case something iconic he did for cinema and find a way to still make it important come the new movie. And also use as a probably more likely as a way for fans to be able to move on cinematically and have their moment and go like, okay, we've had our grief and we can move on. But this idea of bringing them back, just
well, the fact that like we can do that now, we are able to take an actor who's been dead for God knows how long and recreate them on screen to the point where it looks real enough. The fact that we can do that and there hasn't really been a lot of pushback scares me for what we're going to be able to do 10 years from now. Like, look at Ghostbusters Afterlife. Harold Ramis recreated as a ghost. Like, and admittedly, it didn't bother me.
That was one of the few times it didn't bother me, so it felt like the heart was in the right place.
So that's a factor for you then.
Yeah. And does it make sense story wise, I guess. Like honestly, like with a lot of the ones like they did with Star Wars, it didn't make sense story wise to have Peter Cushing come back. Or be like, hey, look, it takes place in this timeline. Like, no shit, you can use how many other people that are in this franchise are still alive to indicate it's in this timeline.
I mean, they could have just found a good enough lookalike, put some makeup on to make him look like Peter Cushing, and then have somebody say, "Oh, look, it's Governor Tarkin." So we know.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that's possible because that's what the new Halloween did. Halloween Kills. That's how they pulled off having Dr. Sam Lewis in the movie. It was not, they didn't digitally recreate John Pleasance. They got a lookalike, did some more makeup. He worked on his voice, and it sounds fucking uncanny. And
that was incredible.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me because I'm like, well, you got an actual human being to do this. And again, it worked story wise. The heart was in the right place, so I'm fine with it. Like I said, with Ghostbusters, with the story they were wanting to tell, what especially how important this was to Reitman to do, like it all the heart was in the right place and also was used well in the sense that like you only didn't see it till the very end of the film, and it was for like maybe a minute or two, and they didn't have him speak. It was just a digitally recreated ghost rendition of him to get the point across, and it worked. And I got teary eyed myself. I did seeing like
Same.
how they reacted
Yeah.
with that. In that case, again, the heart was in the right place. The story necessitated it. I was cool with it.
There was something about it, like it didn't feel like a recreation of Harold Ramis. It felt like a recreation of Egon Spengler. And I think that was a big part of it. This was the character being recreated, not necessarily the actor. And it wasn't for money. It was so pretty much like so the Ghostbusters could say goodbye, which I was okay with. But yeah,
Yeah.
in the case of Game of Death, it was made almost entirely for the money. It was like they had this a little bit of footage that Bruce Lee made. They wanted to cash in on it. They got a bunch of lookalikes and they made this thing. And it was a huge success.
Yeah, it's weird how people just could not care less.
Yeah, bothers me. Like,
And
there's been
granted,
go ahead.
I'm also granted, in all these cases, I've contributed because I've seen almost all these films at theaters, so I definitely contributed to that box office. But
Yeah.
I had my reservations.
Well, to be fair, for a lot of those, we didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah, they usually keep it hidden, and then you're already in the movie watching. You're like, oh, shit, I'm trapped.
Like there was one movie. Do you remember the movie Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow with Jude Law?
Yeah.
Big bomb, and the bad guy is a recreation of Laurence Olivier, who died in the late '80s or early '80s. And they used like archived footage they never used from certain films of his to make him the villain of the movie. And I was like, even at the time, I was like, this doesn't feel right. And it amazing, there wasn't a lot of pushback on that because that movie bombed. But this is, as we see with, Game of Death and that movie, it's like, this is not new. This is something we've been doing since we could do it. It's just a different medium now. Now we can use a computer entirely instead of just some jackass who kind of looks like Carrie Fisher.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I say. I think it also amounts to how does it fit into the story and is the heart into it. I'm sure the heart was into it with Carrie Fisher. I'm sure of that. But at the same time, like she doesn't need like you had the balls to kill off Han Solo. Like you just do it. Like just go ahead and kill off. Make it this epic moment that maybe helps with the newer characters, because I do think that new trilogy had an issue trying to buff up the new characters because they were so beholden to the old ones.
Yeah.
So it's like you had an opportunity to actually use like the real life death, mixing them obviously with the mix of man with character death that could mean something to the new characters going forward, to the rebellion, all that good stuff.
The ending of The Last Jedi, where Laura Dern uses hyperdrive to blast through the Imperial fleet, that 100% should have been Leia. Like, what an exit for that character. How epic that would have been.
Yeah. But, especially because also, it's not like they just randomly decided to introduce fucking force power she definitely didn't have in prior movies into this.
Yeah, well, that's a whole another.
But yeah, so that's why I say like I need both. I need heart and necessitation for the story, which is why Ghostbusters Afterlife got a pass from me. Because they did fall into that.
I agree, and it's just it's a slippery slope, and it's hard to kind of argue about, because it's like there are some situations where I think it's justified, but if we're just gonna start recreating James Dean and shit like that, then what's the point of why should anybody be an actor if we could just go get anybody? I mean, just recreate. If Tom Cruise says no to your movie, just make Tom Cruise.
Yeah, like what was the whole point of Crispin Glover all those years ago back during the Back to the Future trilogy to fight the company for actors getting paid for their likeness or whatever? Like, does that go out the window because you can just digitally recreate them when you want?
Well, I'm sure they'll still get paid for their likeness, but the spirit of the performance goes away. The human aspect of it, that's all gone. It's a computer. You're watching basically a video game.
Yeah, and you know what the thing is? You know how those video games or animated films still slow emotion? They get human actors in a studio that are really good at acting without you seeing their fucking body at all. to read the script and sell those emotions through the animated film, through the video game, whatever medium, an audiobook, if that's what they do, whatever medium they're using.
Yeah, and I know they're not going to go that far. We're not going to get like voice talent behind it. They're going to recreate an actor's voice like they did with Top Gun Maverick, what they did with Val Kilmer. It's you can do that now. We can make an entire performance on a computer, and that the implications of that are fucking terrifying.
So. Yeah. Well, and then like on the music side, there was that whole thing. I think it was at Coachella one year. They did a hologram of Tupac.
Yeah.
It was like, why? Like what? One of the since we did that concert recently, so it's kind of on my mind. The beauty of seeing Rage Against Machine live recently was it was them. It was the actual people. So they were putting their heart, their sweat, their soul into that night, into the fact that, hey, we've been gone for 20 plus years. We're back, and we're as raging as ever. Like the humans sold that to make the experience special. How the fuck does a Tupac hologram do that? Because I don't think it does.
Well, at this point in culture, and I hope forever, you can't recreate the human experience on a computer. You can't do that. You can make something that looks human. You can't make passion. You can't make realism. You can't make identity like that. So hopefully we will never be able to do that. Because once we are able to do that, we might as well just call it quits. We're going extinct.
Oh, well, at that point, it hits Skynet Terminator levels of scary.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't know what's human anymore. I'm out of here. Yeah. But yeah, Bruce Lee, Game of Death. I just thought that'd be an interesting kind of way to go because this film is barely Bruce Lee.
Yeah, this would be a case where it doesn't work because they did purely for the money. I know we'll get into it, but I mean, there are shots in this film where I forgot it was like. I remember he like goes up the stairs. There was once it's literally the scene he runs up the stairs towards the end fight scene. I remember looking, going, "That's not his face. That's some other actor." And then he gets up there and he stares at the guy, and the camera just shows his face. I'm like, "Is that the cardboard cutout? Because it's not moving. Like it's just there."
Yeah, if you know what Bruce Lee looks like, this movie is incredibly jarring, and that's all there is to it. It's like they didn't even try that hard to hide it. They just put some shadows or you see he's mostly just the main character is mostly just filmed from behind the whole time. That's how they got away with it for the most part. There's barely any dialogue on his part. It's weird. It's a weird decision.
Yeah, it's strange. So yeah, my ultimate verdict: if you're doing it because the heart's in the right place and it necessitates story, I get it. And even then, usually when that happens, that means it's limited, like in Ghostbusters. It's not a major piece of the film. It literally they wait until the end of the film.
Yeah.
But if you're not and you're doing it because you can, like this upcoming James Dean bullshit, no, go fuck yourself. Just accept that actor's gone and get someone like, I don't know, Austin Butler, who can apparently impress as Elvis.
He would probably be a pretty good James Dean. It's not a bad idea.
Wow, look at that. I'm not even working in Hollywood. I just recommended a good person to play James Dean.
Yeah. But just like not James, like just ignore James Dean. Just have him play the character James Dean was gonna play.
Yeah, why does it need to be a guy who died after 3 films?
It's a tragedy, but that's the end of James Dean's career. He's not making new work. That's just it's weird. It's uncomfortable, and frankly, it's a disgrace to anybody looking for work today in Hollywood if they're going to get replaced by a literal fucking ghost.
Yeah, it's like if when Tupac got shot and they did all those posthumous releases. Eventually, they stopped because they ran out of shit he had.
Yes.
The scary part would be what if you just keep going and say it's Tupac? That's when you're like, oh, all right. Let's draw a hard line here.
Yeah. So let's go into Game of Death, how this thing came about. It's not the usual way a movie gets made. This was kind of weird.
Unfortunately, not uncommon, though.
Yeah.
Also.
So Lee started filming Game of Death in 1972 after he'd finished Enter the Dragon. The story of Lee's original film involves Lee's character, in order to save his younger sister and brother, joining a group of martial artists who are hired to retrieve a stolen treasure from the top floor of a 5-story pagoda in South Korea, with each floor guarded by martial artists who must be defeated while ascending the tower. And we saw a little bit of that in the new in the official Game of Death, the final fight with the various levels of fighters. That was supposed to be the whole movie, which would have been awesome.
Yeah, and also fighters plus Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Let's just say it like that because he is not a fighter, but he's in this movie.
He's a little bit of a fighter. Bruce Lee taught him how to fight, which is pretty fucking cool. I mean, if you're going to be 7 feet tall and you can fight like Bruce Lee, are you the most dangerous human being on earth? I think maybe you are.
Are you considered a lethal weapon? So I just keep going back to that scene that pissed off Bruce Lee's family.
Anybody kills somebody in a fight by accident, they go to jail. It's called manslaughter. I love that. It's like, you're full of shit.
That is a scene I do enjoy in that movie quite a bit. I do like that scene.
We just did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on Oscar Sunday last weekend, so definitely go check that out if you want to hear more of my thoughts and Austin's thoughts on that hilarious, awesome movie. So that was the plan. Lee filmed about 100, I think it was like 100 minutes of footage for that movie. So they had a lot to work with, and they trimmed that shit down to 11. Yeah.
How is it they had 100 minutes? So they had a film that he was in, and a whole film, and they were like, let's just trim that shit.
Well, I think a lot of it got lost. There's like this rumor that, that footage was hidden away somewhere because somebody wanted to make their own thing, cut together with Bruce Lee. There's a whole lot of conspiracy theories surrounding the original cut of Game of Death, but nothing concrete. Bruce Lee tragically died in 1973 at only 32 years old after suffering a cerebral edema, which is an accumulation of fluid in the brain. Lee had been diagnosed with cerebral edema earlier that year after suffering seizures and headaches, and he was alone the night he died. And if someone had been there, they might have been able to get him to the hospital, and he may have lived. But he wasn't discovered until well after the edema had killed him. That's the thing. It was a condition he knew he had. He felt weary and tired. He went to sleep before he was supposed to go meet some people for dinner. He never showed up. They went to go find him. They found him long dead. So he just needed to be monitored. It was a condition. And of course, there's those conspiracy theorists who think that the fucking triads killed him for just, disclosing ancient Chinese secrets and all that shit. No, he was a reasonably healthy man who had a condition that he wasn't really taking that good of care of.
I'll say it sounds like something that's could have easily been taken care of. I'm sure even now, especially now, I'm sure there's a procedure to get it permanently taken care of so it doesn't affect you anymore.
Yeah.
But that sucks that something so easily fixable is what took down one of the greatest martial art action, international action stars of all time.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. In 2000, Bruce Lee historian John Little released Bruce Lee, A Warrior's Journey, a documentary revealing the original footage and storyline of Game of Death. The documentary also includes a fairly in-depth biography of Lee and leads into the filming of Game of Death. Fans still believe there's more footage to be found. That documentary can now be found on the bonus features disc of the 2004 DVD release of Enter the Dragon, along with the documentary Bruce Lee, The Curse of the Dragon. So that was when people finally found out, like, oh, there was so much more to this than what we got. And nobody really knows what happened to all that extra footage.
That's just great. It's just crazy that like 100-minute full film and no one knows what happened to it. This could have gone down so much because the original ideal, like I said, I remember when I was reading there, I was like, how much did the raid and films like that take from this? The idea of like put your martial arts expert in a building, they have to fight level by level. Tread obviously did it as well. With the unfortunately one and done film we got. Still angry. Should have had more. But it's just crazy to me that fucking happened. I mean, it's not uncommon, unfortunately, but it's just crazy to think that.
Yeah, especially since Bruce Lee was there was so little we got from Bruce Lee that you think they would jump at the chance to like have a full-blown new film of his that he'd made. It's like, why was that? Fucking producer.
Especially with his death, that would have been like a good like, hey, a hoorah posthumous legacy release for him.
Yeah, exactly. So when the footage was reused, the new Game of Death had a completely different plot. While there was some archive footage of Bruce that was used, the character of Billy Lowe was actually played by 4 different people. Kim Tai-jong, Yuen Biao, Albert Sham, and Chris Kent, juggling fight scenes, dialogue scenes, voiceovers, all sorts of stuff. These 4 guys played Billy Lowe for the most part. Of course, top billing goes to Bruce Lee because those other guys aren't selling tickets. The film does only feature 11 minutes and 7 seconds of Lee's original footage, which is absolutely mind-blowing.
So the movie's like an hour and 41 minutes. How does it only include that much?
Like 2% of this shit is actual Bruce Lee. The rest of it is lookalikes. It's, great value Bruce Lee.
Even though there was 100 minutes. Okay.
Unreal, man. The film is directed by Oscar-nominated filmmaker Robert Klaus, who had previously directed Enter the Dragon. He was nominated twice for Best Live-Action Short for 1962's The Cadillac and 1965's The Legend of Jimmy Blue Eyes. Some of his other films include Black Belt Jones, Ironheart, and Jim Cotta. He died in 1997 at 68 years old from kidney failure. And I remember seeing the trailer for Jim Cotta at a pre-show for, I think it was The Equalizer. But basically they tried to turn gymnastics into a martial arts. And they got like the American gymnastics champion of like the late 70s to star as like the American Bruce Lee using gymnastics. Like there had to be a pommel horse at every event or else he couldn't fight. The trailer looked absolutely ridiculous. The movie did not take off. Oh,
God damn it.
Jim Cotta.
At least I don't want to try and Spider,
Yeah, thank God. I have Jim Cotta in our Beyond the Bad Potentials list because I think that would be really fun. Jim Cotta. I remember how serious the trailer was. It was like, it was Enter the Dragon, but with a white guy who did gymnastics.
No one wants that.
Game of Death has an IMDb score of 5.9, Rotten Tomatoes score of 46%. It was a huge hit globally, grossing $50 million on a budget of only $850,000. Yeah, huge success. Everyone was like, Bruce Lee's back. He'd been dead for 5 years, and everyone was like, we got a new movie? Oh my God. And everyone went and saw this. Whereas then they were like, where's Bruce? I hope a lot of them weren't like, wow, Bruce is looking great for being dead for 5 years. I hope everyone was like, this is an outrage.
I would have been that one guy's like, man, he's really crushing his death, ain't he, guys?
Jesus. This is considered Bruce Lee's final film after The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon, and Enter the Dragon. He only did 5 movies. Game of Death did unfortunately pave the way for dozens of knockoff and lookalike actors to trick people into thinking they were watching a Bruce Lee movie. And while I'm sure they're not all bad, none of them hold a candle to the real thing. There's a ton of Bruce Lee, but it's L-I. And there's a whole bunch of that happened in the late 70s and early 80s, where it was just like, you could get away with it because technically you weren't really Bruce Lee, you were Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, look, that's how I'll say it. Just look at, I think it's Criterion, you said. Look at their collection. It has all 5 official Bruce Lee films. And you know what? Just buy it, really. I don't know how much it cost.
Currently going for about $70 on Prime.
That's not too bad, honestly.
For 5 Criterion movies, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Just get that, and then there you go. You got your official Bruce Lee films, and you don't have to worry about falling into a lookalike thing, which is not uncommon in film. There's a Charles Bronson lookalike that has been an active actor to this day, doing really shitty action films, and he started out because he looked so much like Charles Bronson.
God, that's funny. If you do want more Bruce Lee, I recommend just going back and watching the Green Hornet show from the 60s, because that's where Bruce Lee got his start. Kato. He was the original Kato. So there's that. There's the 5 movies. That's it. There's no more. You can watch the biopic that they made starring Jason Scott Lee, Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, which I've heard is pretty good.
If you want to go down his family history, you can watch The Crow with his son Brandon Lee, which is a great film.
If you want to hear the phrase, "You have the biggest dick I've ever seen on a man," you can watch Showdown in Little Tokyo, also starring Brandon Lee. I believe he said that to Dolph Lundgren. Not a great movie.
I'm about to say I've only seen The Crow, so okay.
I haven't seen that either, but I've seen that clip and I'm like, I don't need to be told this isn't a good movie. Oh boy. So amazingly, there was a sequel, 1980's Game of Death 2, which was somehow able to use more archive footage of Lee and lookalikes to make a whole new movie, which was critically despised. I guess people had enough at that point. They're like, no, he's dead. Stop it.
Once was enough. All right, heathens.
Yeah.
That's what critics were like. They're like, Jesus Christ, we got it once. We said okay, no more.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about Game of Death 2 towards the end of the show because I just can't understand how that movie even exists. Game of Death, I can kind of get from a financial perspective. Game of Death 2, though, are you kidding me? You're going to tempt fate twice?
Twice. And just further indicating that there is 100 minutes worth of original footage directed and starring Bruce Lee.
None of which, by the way, was used in Game of Death 2. Game of Death is currently available to stream free on Stars if you have that. Otherwise, you can rent it on Prime and Vudu for about $3.
And don't get confused on Tubi.
Yeah, there's a bunch of movies called Game of Death on Tubi. None of them are the actual Game of Death. You see the problem Bruce Lee fans have had to deal with for like his entire career? There's so many fucking knockoff movies. You got to know exactly what he was in, or you're just going to end up down this rabbit hole of shitty movies.
I typed it in on Tubi and I was amazed with how many Game of Deaths popped up that had nothing to do with this movie.
Yeah, it is. I remember you told me, like, which one do I watch? I'm like, 1979. That one. Like, it's weird. I've never had this problem with any other movie where I'm like, which one is it? Like, where's the real, fucking Corey Feldman? Like, I don't know.
I thought the worst problem I had was somehow trying to rent for Beyond the Bed fucking Cabin Fever remake because that just disappeared off streamers everywhere when it was time for the episode. But no, apparently it was finding the actual like official Game of Death film.
It is so weird. But we found it. We watched it. I for free because I had Stars. Sorry. And although I did pay you for that one.
You did. And in all fairness, if the much talked about cancellation of Stand Debt happens at any point, I'll have some more money.
Oh, so here it is. Game of Death. Let's talk about some highlights. Frankly, there's not a lot of them. But there are some moments in this movie I do want to talk about. First off, the music is awesome. John Barry, I believe, did the score, and he did not disappoint.
Yeah, the music was good. Admittedly, I didn't really pay attention to the music as much as you because this whole time I'm just watching this going, that's not Bruce Lee. That doesn't sounds like what's going on. And then at one point I did sit there and go like, holy shit, is that the funeral footage everyone was talking about?
Fair enough. For me, it's just like, John Barry did most of the Bond scores, so I recognize his vibe. So that caught me. I was like, wait a minute, this sounds kind of Bond-esque. And then I'm like, that's because it's John Barry. Well done. So yeah, that was a me thing. Okay. We start out with some footage from Way of the Dragon, where Bruce Lee infamously fought Chuck Norris. And Chuck Norris was not happy that he got some billing for this. He was like, I wasn't in this movie. Take me off that credit. Because I guess he and Bruce got along pretty well. And he was like, this is a disgrace to Bruce.
He was my sensei.
But yeah, it's shot as like, because the character of Billy Lowe is supposed to be a movie star and he's filming a movie with Chuck Norris, I guess. And the mob shows up and is like, hey, we want you to fight for us. And a cardboard cutout glued to a mirror says no. Oh, I don't know if that's the worst not Bruce we get in this movie. There are quite a few contenders, but I mean, they couldn't have maybe made it smaller so it looked like a human being.
I think what they showed in is just at that point had like the back end piece or the cardboard cutout just be like, yep, that's what this is. It's not Bruce.
They should have just had the main guy wear like an opera mask of Bruce Lee's face the whole time, because that would have looked better.
Yeah, Yeah, and it's crazy that they went with the storyline because had Bruce Lee been alive for it, it would have been a cool idea on your fifth film, mega fucking international superstar, to do a film where you're the main character, you're an action movie. So I've been a really cool ahead of its time matter thing to do. But they did it after he died.
Well, Bruce Lee's original intent was none of this. Like, this was all shit the producers made up with Bruce Lee gone. I mean, that's why I think he's kind of a dirty fighter in this movie. It's
A
like
little bit.
Bruce was always about honor. He was never like just kicking people in the balls.
He punched the shit out of that producer for like no reason in this scene, or his lookalike.
Yeah. So clearly they were like, we can use Bruce without having to respect Bruce, which is really fucked up. And even weirdly, there's a scene where Billy Lowe realizes, I got to fake my own death in order to get out of this. So he gets shot by accident by a real gun that was supposed to be a prop gun on the set of one of his movies. Does that sound familiar to anybody?
And I tell the story on that one.
Feel free.
Those who aren't familiar with that, the aforementioned The Crow starred Bruce Lee's son, Brandon Lee. Goth King for a lot of people thanks to that movie. But also just really good movie. Was infamous, if you will, for the climactic church fight scene on the roof. If you notice, there's a scene where the main guy pulls out his gun and shoots the main character. When they did that scene originally, the prop master thought he had switched out the real gun with a fake gun. Turns out not the case, and actually shot Brandon Lee, or it was like a dummy bullet. It was something. It was a freak accident.
What happened was,
I think it was a dummy bullet that went off way too fast.
I think the dummy bullet broke, or there was like a piece of old dummy bullet in one of the chambers, and it got fired for real and killed him.
Yeah, he was, as far as I know, alive up to the ambulance getting there, and then I think he probably died on the way to the hospital. But he died. He died, and unlike this film, they kept everything they filmed for The Crow with an alive Brandon Lee, and they spliced together what they could out of the end to get the end complete. But again, that actually was kind of, I forgot about this, would have been perfect for the question earlier. This was a case where I felt the heart and story necessitated. Like, they were doing it for the right reasons. They wanted to complete the film in his honor. Be like, hey, he worked really hard for this. He would want us to complete it. Let's see what we can do. And again, it's only then in the film they didn't change the story. They didn't do that. They kept the movie intact. All that stuff you see with him killing the guys one by one, doing all that stuff is very much Brandon Lee. And then the ending, yes, it's a lot of like shooting from behind and things like that to hide the fact that they had to get a body double and do a bunch of special stuff.
Yeah. Fucking tragic that both, Bruce and Brandon would die at such a young age in very avoidable fashion. But even weirder that Bruce's final movie features a scene where that fucking happens.
That happened, and then it happens to his son in reality. And then taken to this most recent incident with Alec Baldwin on the set of that movie Rust, for Hollywood to finally start making a more better stance with this, because it's like, okay, this shouldn't be happening on a movie set, but people dying by a prop gun.
Yeah. It's, as much as I do love the products that come out of this industry, it is hard to like this industry. It really is. So Billy Lowe gets some plastic surgery, and by that I mean he wears a fake beard for a couple scenes. Yeah, I was like, really? After all that, it's like a Groucho Marx mask.
The undercover stuff that all these old films used to do. It's like when James Bond went to Japan and just did Yellowface. I'm like, that's not undercover, guys. Like,
oh god, yeah, they narrowed his eyes and gave him a bowl cut. Oh my god,
I don't understand old Hollywood's ways of just like, this is how people do plastic surgery going crazy. They just get a beard, or they change their hairdo and no one recognizes them. Like, that's not how that works.
You can't be James Bond. He's a white guy, and you are clearly of Asian descent. God.
But you sound like an Irishman.
A Scot. Watch that.
No.
They don't forgive shit like that.
I doubt any of them are listening to this.
I hope we have if we just alienated our entire Scottish fan base, I'm gonna kill you.
I don't think we're international like that.
I've checked. Actually, we do have quite a bit of a reach. I've been looking at our numbers. Not bad. We're doing all right.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
By the way, Scott. By
Where's
the
the
way,
ring?
it's fucking Sean Connery, and they just painted his face yellow. It's horrendous.
It was, yeah. I don't know why they did that, and also, it never fucking mattered. Like he went and took on Blofeld as himself. Like there was no fucking point to that. Literally, the assassins end up at that place like the next day. They know he's there.
I mean, and let's just be honest. It's Sean Connery. He played a Spaniard. He never tried to hide that he's not Spanish. He played a Russian. Never tried to hide that he's not Russian.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think the most uncomfortable and controversial thing surrounding this movie is the fact that they filmed Bruce Lee's memorial service and used footage of his actual dead body in the movie. And you can see it. It's still there, has not been removed, still in the movie. And holy hell, is that just unheard of and horrible.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, that's probably the biggest thing to this movie. So I see why it hasn't gotten taken out, because like that's just something that, in a weird way, and just me being type of films are like, that's how you would sell this. People like they have his actual funeral, and you go, no, they don't. And then you watch it and you go, holy shit, they do. Why would they do that?
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's brief, but also it's real. And why would you do that? Was that the
real
same
dead body? Yeah, it's because producers suck. It's a real dead body surrounded by actual fans during an actual memorial service that was happening. I'm sure his family was somewhere there off camera.
Jesus Christ. Do you think they were told about that or they found out when they saw Game of Death?
I would think they found out when they saw Game of Death.
God.
Considering how they reacted to the whole like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood thing, like there's no way in hell they would just allow that to happen. Like,
yeah,
they got offended over essentially a joke in a movie from 2019.
Yeah, and 5 years after his death, it's pretty raw in 1978. So, oh God, I can't believe they did that, and it was still a huge hit, and it's still in the movie. You think even now, like with like they Disney's been taking out their racist shit of their movies. Maybe we remove Bruce Lee's body from Game of Death. I'm okay with that.
No, that's not how. No. I'm sure it's always a selling point on like every release for this film.
Yes.
It's like if they put in the footage, like they made a new Crocodile Hunter show movie, and they're like, let's put in the footage of when the stingray got him. I'd be like, don't do that. I don't want to see that.
God no. Oh, so moving on from that, we do have the origin of the yellow and black bodysuit that became pretty iconic for Bruce Lee. Was later used as an homage in Kill Bill. Became the bride's costume when she took on the Crazy 88. And instead of just having him wear that during that scene, they have to have him take it off of a biker he just kicked the shit out of. I thought that was odd. Like, why not just put that costume on fake Bruce Lee to explain why he's wearing it in the next scene instead of just having him like, why is he taking the clothes off a biker in the middle of this scene?
It doesn't make any sense. I will say this much. Somehow these Bruce Lee lights that are in the movie, like somehow they make the action scenes hold up. Like they're not terrible action scenes. I'm sure they're not the best that obviously was offered in Bruce Lee in his 4 prior films, but they're not bad either.
Yeah, there's just a lot of kicking in the face, like a lot of just kicking in the face. And Bruce Lee is a lot more than just a kick in the face. Sometimes he punches in the face. But yeah, they're not terrible, but they're not Bruce, and I don't like that the producers are trying to trick me into thinking it's Bruce. Yeah. After that, we get some Bruce. We get the real footage that he shot prior to his death of him fighting a guy with nunchucks, another guy, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who wouldn't come back to film new scenes. So they used a body double earlier in the movie, and I don't know how they found a body double for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
So weird. that's a weird thing to refuse there, good old Kareem. Like,
Yeah. Right.
uh, still weird seeing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like, I know he pops up in what was it, Airplane? And they make
Yeah.
that joke.
Yeah.
But it's still weird seeing him in this type of film.
I agree, but they wanted to get Bruce Lee fighting a huge guy, and it worked. It's a cool scene. I thought the nunchuck scene was my favorite when he just straight up breaks that guy's neck with the nunchucks. That was fucking epic.
Yeah. No, this part of the film is really cool. He's finally doing what they want to do. He's going up the levels and kicking ass.
Yeah, when I got some Bruce in my Bruce Lee movie, it was great.
Yeah, I did like how randomly, like, I don't know if it was like the Prime rental, but it's like I think it was the second guy he fights. Like, he gets up and says something, but like the dialogue doesn't come through. It's like they didn't bother putting the dialogue for that scene.
That was an overdub because what he said had no relevance to this plot that they now have, so they had to put in something that sounded relevant to the current plot. So that's what that was.
Oh, I was about to say, well, nothing came out. His lips moved and not a sound came out. So I was just like,
Yeah,
I was watching, like, what?
a lot of martial arts movies are known for the words not matching the mouth. The overdub of those movies are known for that. It's like
There was just no dialogue. Like, they just had his mouth move, but no dialogue in the Prime video.
I must have missed that one. That's great.
Yeah, no, the dubbing. I've watched enough Italian horror films. I know, and Godzilla flicks know how this overdub works. I did like when, like, he's fine. I think the first guy, I think it was a nunchuck guy. He just randomly goes, "All right," and then Bruce Lee just takes him out. I'm like, why did you just say that?
Because there's no context for a lot of that shit because it was made for a different movie. And nobody bothered to course correct any of it. They just kept it. It's insane. This movie is a Frankenstein of motion pictures. It's just stitched together and expected to live, and somehow it did. You know what this whole movie reminded me of? Jurassic Park, when Dr. Malcolm goes up to the camera in the truck and tells Hammond, so you do expect to have dinosaurs on your dinosaur trip here, right? Because like the whole time I'm like, is Bruce Lee ever going to show up? Like, is there going to be some Bruce Lee in this Bruce Lee movie?
And the producer looked at you and went, I really hate that, man. I really, really do.
Not supposed to ask that question. But yeah, we get to see him fight, that second dude who he takes out. And then the second fight just wasn't that memorable to me, but mostly because it's sandwiched between epic nunchuck fight and, Kareem.
Yeah.
But yeah, fighting Kareem, who just to get a quick idea of this guy, he is
quick live recording break update with DC. Ezra Miller has been found and is now being charged with felony burglary.
Oh, sweet. I can't wait to see him get away with that. Kareem is 7'2" and fucking huge and one of the most iconic basketball players of all time. Of course, in the entertainment world, known mostly for this and Airplane.
Yeah, and somehow they found a body double for that guy.
I doubt. It had to have been some kind of optical illusion because there's no way they just found another 7'2" black dude to be like, yeah, I'll be Kareem for 5 seconds.
Just to randomly grab a guy and take him out.
Yeah. But yeah, I love when Kareem just kicks Bruce. He flies across the room and he's got this footprint on his chest that goes like the size of his torso. How did he fight this guy? Crazy.
And Bruce Lee.
Yeah, he takes him out and ends up fighting the main bad guy, who I believe was Dean Jagger. And he was weak. Just this old guy who's like, I'm a crime boss. Yeah. And he just falls off a roof into some neon signs and the movie's over.
Yeah, I noticed that when he fell off in the movie, I was like, oh, that was it. You guys didn't want to. You spent so much time filming everything before this. You couldn't film more of an ending.
Yeah, I was like, well, what's gonna happen with Bruce and his girl? Like, Did he get the whole syndicate? Like, is there going to be no repercussions for this? How is this guy going to come out of his death and be a movie star again? Like, there's no epilogue. We need a little something to tie some shit together. You can't just be like, and that's it. Fuck off.
It's like if a similar film, right? The Raid had the crime boss died and it just ends right then and there. Not the whole part where he talks to his brother. They have a nice little moment. He leaves. You watch him leave. You're like, oh, nice. Everything ended happy. And then Raid 2 quickly establishes no, but nonetheless, you got something.
Can you imagine if every movie ended with the death of the bad guy? Like right then, just like take Return of the Jedi, for instance. Vader hurls the Emperor down the hole. The Emperor dies. Credits. Like there's nothing else to Star Wars.
And we're done.
John Wick 2. He tracks Santino to the Continental, blows his brains out. Credits. Watching movies would be so irritating. You would just hope they'd wrapped everything up before they got there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God. That's just a great scene in John Wick 2.
Oh,
when Winston's saying going, Jonathan, think about what you're doing. And he just fucking takes that sleazeball out with his whole like, a man could stay in here for years. And
dude, when Winston says, like, what have you done? And John just says, finished it, and then walks outside. It's like, fuck. You're at one point, you're at the same time, you're like, well done, but also you're like, shit.
Yeah. Then you get that whole fucking moment where Winston's like, you're excommunicado. You have an hour. You need to get out of here.
Yeah. I just watched all those for kicks recently, so they're flawless. Such a great series. Love it. Can't wait for part 4.
If that trailer we got, I cannot wait.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of martial arts guys, Donnie Yen's gonna be in that. So I can't wait to see what he adds to the John Wick franchise.
Oh God, I can't wait.
But yeah, credits. That's it. And that's the last time we would ever officially see Bruce Lee, which is pretty sad. His opus could have been Enter the Dragon, which is one of the greatest movies of all time. But no, producers got greedy and shoved him into this piece of shit called Game of Death.
This could have been, again, great post-human legacy release if they had just used the 100 minutes that he had already fucking filmed.
Yeah. Well, here's some Filmgazm facts for Game of Death. Number 1, Steve McQueen, James Coburn, and Muhammad Ali all refused roles in this film because they felt it exploited Bruce Lee's death, and also because of the low pay that the studio Golden Harvest was offering. So I wonder how much of it was, I don't want to dishonor Bruce like that, and how much of it was, that's not enough.
I feel like this is a rare case where that is actually both. But the kind of respect from what I know that he had, I'm sure it was like, no, I'm not doing this to him.
But dude, if Lee had survived the edema, if he'd made this movie his way, there's a decent chance we one day could have actually seen Bruce Lee and Ali fight in a movie. Like that could have happened. Damn it. Number 2, it was rumored that Bruce Lee planned to shoot some of the film on location outside a pagoda. There was to be a scene where his character and his team of martial artists were to fight an entire karate school. That would have been cool.
God.
Yeah. And number 3, James Bond actor George Lazenby was very good friends with Bruce Lee in real life and was scheduled to have dinner with Lee the night of his death to talk about starring in this picture with him, until Lee's untimely death prevented that. So, yeah, could have had Bruce Lee versus James Bond. I mean, the worst James Bond, but still.
Yes, it's still James Bond. That would have been awesome as fuck.
Mm-hmm. Well, 1981's Game of Death 2 sees Billy Lowe killed while seeking his friend's murderers, and his brother Bobby Lowe hunts down his brother's killers. So Bruce Lee is in this for about 10 minutes. The rest of the movie is his brother Bobby avenging Billy's death. Again, just make a movie like that, but without Bruce Lee. It's like, why? It's a cash grab. It's a shameless cash grab. It's annoying.
Yep, they saw success. They're like, hey, we can try doing Game of Death too then.
Well, I've been trying to find Game of Death 2. There's a streaming service called Hiya that you can subscribe to on Prime. I'm assuming it has a whole bunch of martial arts movies. That seems to be the only place I can find Game of Death 2.
I would laugh if it's just a lot of romantic dramas. Nothing to do with martial arts films at all.
It is nothing but Ken Burns history documentaries.
And Bob Ross and Bob Ross painting.
And all seasons of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
My God.
It's basically it's PBS wearing a mask. But no, I'm pretty sure it's just martial arts movies. But if you want to see Game of Death 2, you're gonna have to get Hiya. And I don't know how much it is because I didn't look further because I'm not getting Hiya.
Hiya.
I don't like saying Hiya. I feel like I'm infringing on some culture here.
I oddly like saying it.
I give Game of Death a 5. It's a very dull film that is only remembered for the fight scenes at the end that actually feature Bruce Lee. The rest of the film is forgettable and pretty lukewarm.
I'll agree. I'll second the 5. I'll second the 5. Honestly, I was looking at my phone a lot throughout this movie until I got to the end scene with Bruce. And then I was like fully like attentive, but for that I was like, God, this movie. Yeah, it doesn't have really an interesting story to hook you into like why he's going to this, because again, they decided to skew the original storyline. That sounds riveting. And I mean, yeah, obviously seeing that last 11 minutes of actual Bruce Lee doing his thing is awesome as shit.
Yeah.
But besides that, the movie is kind of a slog.
Yeah. It feels out of place because the rest of the movie really doesn't have any decent build up to that. And the aftermath is just an old guy trips off a building and then it's over. Well, yeah. So double 5s. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you like the show, feel free to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Filmgazm Productions. You can send us a message there if you want to suggest films, or you can email us at filmgazm@gmail.com. Check out our website, filmgazm.com, where we have reviews, articles, trailers of upcoming films, and all of our shows. If you want to support the show through Anchor, you can click on Support This Podcast on your preferred provider. We appreciate it. Next week, we continue our random picks with a 1989 family sci-fi classic. When brilliant scientist Wayne Zelinsky builds a fully functional shrink ray, he doesn't notice when it accidentally shrinks his kids and his neighbors' kids down to near microscopic size. When the kids end up in the yard, they have to get back home before dad disassembles the shrink ray, leaving them stuck this way forever in the 1989 adventure, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Haven't seen this one since I was a kid, and I'm looking forward to watching it again. I love that we've kind of, we were pretty narrowly focused on horror in the early days of this show. We've since branched into all sorts of genre shit. And I love it because now I get to talk about a semi-beloved live-action Disney classic and Rick Moranis, who I've loved my whole life. So this is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah. Should be a good episode. Sorry, I'm looking at this Bruce Lee box set.
You gonna get it?
I'm thinking, dude, it actually has Game of Death 2 in it.
Seriously? Like as a bonus?
It has it. Yeah, it's like a bonus, and apparently has Game of Death redo, which includes more of Lee's original footage. So there might indeed be an alternate take to this film.
Did Criterion get their hands on the real footage? Well, shit, I might have to get this too. I gotta wait till payday, but I might get this too.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some more research, but yeah, sorry, I'm looking at that. Yeah, I mean, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is great. It's good timing. Because Disney, a company that does usually come out with the films, they say, unlike other companies out there. If you haven't heard, he is coming out of retirement, or not really retirement, but what he was doing. For anyone that I'm sure we'll get into it, but the reason he left Hollywood, very noble reason, just makes me love the guy even more. But he's coming back for a new Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie.
Yeah.
Which means hopefully with this announced new Ghostbusters, he might find a way to come back. I'm really hoping. So yeah, good. Just a great film. The dude's a fucking comedic talent. I can't. Whether it's me or Coulson, who knows? We don't know yet.
Yeah, still working on fixing that old computer. If you remember our Predator episode where he got taken out by the Predator, Hawkins style.
He is still trying to fight the Predator and be the ultimate warrior.
But we are hoping that he will escape the clutches of the Yautja and find his way home. So when that
Become
happens, we'll get him back.
and become a sexual Tyrannosaurus who gave high praise to the new Predator. So
Yeah, Jesse the Body loved it. So if you need more evidence of why this is an awesome movie, there it is.
yep, and he ain't got time to bleed, so you know that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids next week. That'll be really fun. Don't miss the 1976 creature feature Grizzly on Fridays Beyond the Bad, and a Best Picture showdown on 1945's The Lost Weekend on Oscar Sunday. Until then, if an actor's died before they've even really started production on a new movie, maybe just let them rest instead of constantly defiling their legacy for a little extra change. Keep watching movies, and we'll see you next week.